I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. I want to show you some expert cross-examination by Democrats in the House of Representatives with some of these witnesses that the MAGA Republicans have called as part of their absurd and frankly despicable hearings where the MAGA Republicans were trying to spread conspiracy theories. And I'm talking about some expert level cross-examination, which has either exposed the witnesses or exposed the overall agenda of the MAGA Republicans, or both. You can see the difference just between the talent of members of Congress who are Democrats versus these unqualified MAGA Republican members in the House of Representatives. So first, I want to show you Democratic Congress member Raja Krishnamurthy, who went to Harvard Law School, cross-examined some of these fake whistleblowers who MAGA Republicans put before one of the committee hearings. And these individuals tried to, these fake whistleblowers were trying to say that it was President Biden who caused all of this delay in their work when they were at the IRS, when they were trying to make sure that the United States attorney pursued prosecutions of Hunter Biden. But as Democratic Congress member Raja Krishnamurthy demonstrates brilliantly, the things that these MAGA Republican fake whistleblower witnesses are complaining about took place when Donald Trump was in office, when Donald Trump controlled the government, when it was Donald Trump's Department of Justice. Watch how surgically Raja Krishnamurthy, Democratic Congress member, just dismantles these witnesses. Play the clip.
You were concerned about the complexities of the election cycle and potential delays that arose in connection with the election cycle. You said at page 23, and I remember there were always times where we were always on an impending election cycle. It was always the elections being brought up in early 2020. It was the presidential primaries. Now, sir, Joe Biden was not the president at that time either, was he?
I mean, the answer to your question is no, he was not, but I don't see where you referenced it in my, for
page 23. You're talking about how the election cycle is delaying decisions by the prosecution. And it turns out that the delay in the election cycle was happening at a time when Joe Biden was not the president.
I'm sorry, sir. That's in Special Agent Ziegler's transcript. That's why I couldn't find it.
So, Mr. Ziegler and you shared concerns about delays related to the election cycle. But at that time, Joe Biden was not the president.
I believe at that time he was the nominee for president.
But, well, he was not the president, was he? It's just a simple question, sir.
Can you rephrase what time period?
Joe Biden was not the president in the presidential primaries in 2020.
Correct. That is correct.
Sir, finally, Mr. Shapley, you said that warrants were ready as soon as April 2020 to begin searching for records, but actions weren't taken with regard to those warrants. Again, Joe Biden was not the president in April 2020, was he?
So I'm confused by your line of questioning. We're talking about an election to which now President Biden was a part of. So he didn't have to be the president to have election meddling.
No, but the question is this. Was he the president at that time in April 2020?
It's been asked and answered.
And what's the answer, sir?
The election.
The answer is yes or no?
Is no.
Thank you. Thank you. I yield back.
Next up, we have Democratic Congress member Dan Goldman, former United States or Assistant United States Attorney from the Southern District of California, someone who prosecuted high-profile organized crime cases, one of the top prosecutors in the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. I want you to watch what he does with this MAGA Republican witness, Emma Jo Morris, now works at Breitbart. She used to work at the New York Post. And watch how Dan Goldman just continues to ask these questions and follow up to not let Emma Jo Morris obfuscate what she's trying to do, but ultimately demonstrates that when she wrote her stories about Hunter Biden, she never even received a laptop. She got a hard drive from Rudy Giuliani, who was cavorting with Russian spies at the time, and she never conducted a forensic analysis of the hard drive. And when she's asked about Rudy Giuliani's speaking with these Russian spies, she's like, well, I guess so. Here, play this clip.
I want to focus now, Ms. Morris, on the laptop. There's been a lot of talk about the laptop being real. And that is true. There was a laptop. It's a computer, keyboard, screen. It is real. But you never got a laptop before you wrote that story, did you?
That's correct.
You got a hard drive.
Hard drive.
And you received that hard drive from Rudy Giuliani, right?
Yep.
Who had been openly associating with an agent of Russian intelligence in the months leading up to your story. You agree with that, right?
I guess.
Now, did you do a forensic examination of that hard drive before you printed your story?
We had tech people in the Post looking at it, yes.
That's a forensic analysis?
No, not.
I highly doubt the New York Post has the ability to do a forensic analysis of a hard drive. Okay. Ms. Morris, were you the primary drafter of this article?
Yes.
Bruce Golding was not the primary author?
No.
Drafter?
No.
Did he help with the article?
Yes.
And then isn't it true that he decided to withdraw his name from the byline because of concerns that he had?
I wasn't involved with that.
Well, isn't it true, whether you were involved in it or not?
I don't know the details.
But he did withdraw his name from the byline.
His name was not published.
Right. Well, I'd like to introduce for the record an article in the New York Times that says the first line is New York Post front page article about Hunter Biden was written mostly by a staff reporter who refused to put his name on it, two Post employees said.
I want to show you Democratic Congress member Debbie Wasserman Schultz and her questioning right here of RFK Jr. and confronting him with just the facts as he tries to deny that he said the things that he said is brilliant. And I want to say this, though, about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's not a lawyer. She has family members who are lawyers, but she doesn't have formal legal training. But she's someone who's so experienced as a legislator that she just intuitively is sharp and she just nails it. Watch this cross-examination of RFK Jr. by Democratic Congressmember Wasserman Schultz.
A few months ago, Mr. Kennedy, you compared COVID public health policies to barbaric murderous tactics of Nazi Germany, saying that Jewish people in Nazi Germany had more freedom than Americans facing COVID health restrictions. In hindsight, Mr. Kennedy, do you reject this absurd and deeply hurtful and harmful comparison, or do you still stand by it?
Congressman, what you are saying is a lie.
That you said it.
No, I did not. I never contained.
Okay.
I never, ever
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to enter into the record when Mr. Kennedy said that. I reclaim my time. In discussing COVID public health measures, you made light of the genocide against Jewish people by saying, and I quote, even Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland, you could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. Mr. Kennedy, do you think it was easy for Jewish people to escape systematic slaughter of Nazis, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Mr. Kennedy, do you think it was just as hard to wear a mask during COVID as it was to hide under floorboards or false walls so you weren't murdered or dragged to a concentration camp? Yes or no?
Excuse me?
That's a question, yes or no?
I didn't hear your question.
Okay. I said, do you think it was just as hard to wear a mask during COVID as it was to hide under floorboards or false walls so you weren't murdered or dragged to a concentration camp?
Of course not. That's ridiculous.
But that's a comparison that you made.
I did not
Kennedy,
make that comparison.
Were the measures taken to contain the spread and fatalities related to COVID in any way at all comparable to the murder of 6 million Jews, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Let's be very clear here. There's no legitimate comparison to the Holocaust. It doesn't matter if you're talking about AI, vaccine mandates, or anything else. There is no comparison. And if this were a slip of the tongue, Mr. Kennedy, or a one-off comment, we would all move on. But there's a deeply disturbing pattern. In 2015, you apologized to all those, quote, whom I offended by my use of the word Holocaust to describe the autism epidemic. When discussing efforts to encourage others to get vaccinated for COVID-19, you said Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews. That was a quote. Like before, you apologized for invoking the Holocaust, saying, quote, to the extent my remarks caused hurt, I am truly and deeply sorry. These are not real statements of contrition or remorse. They are passive-aggressive non-apologies that blame the listener for reacting to the lie you just read.
Finally, I want to show you this cross-exam by Democratic Congressmember Eric Swalwell, former state prosecutor in California. Again, lawyer, prosecutor, knows what he's doing. Watch him cross-examine John Durham, who is the propped up by Bill Barr and the MAGA Republicans to try to create this report against Donald Trump's enemies. And ultimately, John Durham, he had 2 cases that he actually brought to trial and lost both of them. Watch how Eric Swalwell handles this questioning. Play the clip.
I also want to compare you to the last major special counsel investigation that we had. You agree special counsel Mueller charged dozens of individuals and you indicted 3. Is that correct?
Indicted 2 and another third pleaded guilty.
Right. And special counsel Mueller had dozens of convictions, some at trial, but no defendant was outright acquitted. Is that right in the Mueller investigation? Outright acquitted. Across the board, every charge acquitted.
Right. I don't believe there are any acquittals. I'm not sure there were dozens of convictions. There were dozens of, more than a dozen people who were indicted.
And look, as a trial lawyer, although admittedly I'm devoting most of my time right now to MeidasTouch, as I'm sure you all can tell, I appreciate the art of a good cross-examination. And so seeing these cross-examinations at work, I mean, a lot of them were from this past week. The Eric Swalwell was from a few weeks back. But seeing that cross-examination to expose these Republican witnesses, it's an art. It's an art I love to share with you, and I thought I would show you all of those great cross-exams because it also highlights, too, not just the fact that the MAGA Republicans lie about everything, but the talent that the Democrats have in the House of Representatives. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast and have an excellent day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.